this thing working? Give me some sound over here.
Yeah.
The Out of Bounds Show is powered by the award-winning golf courses at Dancing Rabbit Golf Club in Philadelphia, Mississippi.
They're finishing up renovating Dancing Rabbit Golf Club. Not been an hour away from us. Pearl River Resort, Golden Moon Casinos, and Sportsbook. Amazing Sportsbook. 40 TVs, full bar, serve food. Great place to watch games. But they've been renovating Dancing Rabbit Golf Club. Top 100 course. Named over and over again. The Azaleas and the Oaks. It's actually 2 courses, 36 holes. And Dancing Rabbit Golf Club, Clubhouse, I think we'll either be ready this Friday or next Friday. We'll let you know. It's a great place to stay, too. We've stayed there. Obviously, we've done shows there and all that kind of stuff. It's nothing better than hanging out on the back porch with a Tito's and soda, a couple of oranges in there, and maybe at about 4:35 in the afternoon, overlooking the Azaleas and the Oaks, and you light a La Flor Dominicana, and you're with a buddy. That's good living right there. DancingRabbitGolf.com to book your stay and play with your buddies, right? Cigars, golf, bourbon, and the sportsbook at the Golden Moon Casino Sportsbook and Lounge. We welcome in our friend Tom Luginbill, National College Football Analyst with ESPN. He joins us on the Farm Bureau Insurance Guest Line. Tom Luginbill, how are you?
I'm good, man. Good morning to you.
Are you in Charlotte or are you on the road?
I am. Well, there's my dog. I'm not too happy with Mama coming home. Sorry about that. She's standing right next to me as I'm sitting out here on the steps, and I actually came outside so my dogs wouldn't bark. And then next thing you know, I got her out here, and she barks at her own mom. Sorry about that.
What's her name?
Lois Lane.
I love it. I love it because you're always in different.
Well, we got Clark Kent too. He's older than her though. She's a year and a half, and he's about 7.
What kind of dog?
Golden Doodles.
Nice. Nice. Lois Lane and Clark Kent. What's
and
your
Bob,
favorite?
Our oldest one's Bob. Well, our oldest one is about to be 12. His name's Bob, and he's getting older. So Bob the dog was like our one dog that like our kids are the most attached to just because they were small when we got him.
Sure.
My son's 17 and my daughter's 15 and Bob's about to turn 12. So, but no, to answer your question, I just actually got off the road. I had Monday Night Football for the XFL, got back yesterday afternoon, and then I've got to go to Orlando for this coming week's game on Saturday. And in between, we're starting to put together some content for our upcoming 2024 spring player rankings and our updated 2025 underclassmen like pre-ranking.
Wow.
So I got a lot on the table.
Yeah, you do. Did you ever meet with all the places and all the games that you have called, plus you're tied to recruiting in the Under Armour All-American game?
Mm-hmm.
Did you ever meet Lamar Jackson?
Oh, yeah, several times. I actually did. I actually got a really good story about that. It's actually a Bobby Petrino-related story. So I did a guy who just, as you know, the coaching tree and all the branches that come off of it. So a guy that was a GA for my dad at Arizona State back in 1982 and 83. He ended up moving on, was a scout in the NFL for 26 years. And then he got back into the college ranks, and he was actually the director of player personnel for Bobby Petrino at Louisville. So one spring, I always, pick a couple schools where I go and visit and spend a few days and talk shop. And I decided to go up there during spring ball. And I had seen, obviously, Lamar at camps and things of that nature when he was young. He was just this raw athlete that was, you kind of didn't know what to do with him. So it was really interesting that he goes to Louisville because when you looked at Bobby Petrino's quarterbacks and the guys that he played with, nobody could even come close to resembling this guy. So you're kind of wondering, like, okay, well, what are they going to do with him? Like, how are they going to get this guy to play in that type of setup? So what was really intriguing, and I think everybody would agree that Bobby Petrino's system and method of coaching is tried and true, and it's been successful everywhere it's been. And I happened to be there. for a couple of days during spring ball, and I'm watching the spring ball, and I start noticing, I'm like, he's never in the shotgun. And so after practice, I said, Coach, I said, you're never in the shotgun with him, huh? He goes, well, we'll be in the shotgun with him. He goes, but he's got a lot to learn. So we have a rule this spring, and for 15 days, he is not allowed to take a snap out of the shotgun. He has to take snaps from under center. He has to work through, ball handling and drops from center, things that are really foreign to him. And he's also not allowed to take off and run. I don't care if he throws it away, and I really don't even care if he makes a risk with the football of throwing it away. I want him to start developing some discipline within the pocket. And I tell that story because it was either the next year or the year after. It was the next year, I think he won the Heisman Trophy. And then I had a regular season game with him that year against North Carolina early. And then I also had the Citrus Bowl where they played LSU. They were completely outmanned, and LSU handled them pretty good. So, yeah, I've been around him quite a bit.
What describe his personality to us?
Very outgoing, smile on his face all the time. I always liked him because I thought he was a guy that appreciated playing the game in the sense that he really loves to just go out there and play. If you told him he was just going to go take the ball and go out on a sand lot somewhere and chuck it around, he would love that. Like that's kind of who he is. Where I think it's unfortunate is that he doesn't have any representation, and I just think that is so dangerous in this day and age when you're dealing with people and you need somebody to be the bad guy.
Mm-hmm.
You need somebody to be the intermediary, because there are relationships at stake and there are decisions and conversations that are happening. And I just don't know if that's truly helping him to the level that maybe he needs. And then on top of it, I think, let's get down to it. The Cleveland Browns are to blame for all of this.
Right.
Right. For every single thing going forward now in the National Football League, when people start wanting guaranteed contracts, guaranteed total contracts in the most violent collision-based sport or profession outside of UFC, okay, in the world, it's just not. It's not good business practice. That's not the way you stay in business. It's not the way that you invest, and there's just way too much risk. And now that there's been a precedent set, it's kind of screwed everything up.
Tom Luginbill, ESPN on the Farm Bureau Insurance guest line. Yeah, I agree, Lugs. I mean, I've had people around me that have just helped me tremendously when I had to make, decisions throughout
Sure.
my life. And it's good to lean on people. And, man, that inner circle and who you're tied in with is super important, really regardless of age, I think, Luke. You and I are about the same age. So
there's no doubt. And you know what? It's no different than, what I tell young kids that are getting recruited or kids that are in college right now. You are who you hang out with. You are who you associate with. And sometimes you have to step away. And in the instance of somebody that's dealing with upper management or, CEOs and presidents and general managers and ownership and all of those sorts of things, you need that intermediary. And there's a reason why everybody has one, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's something I hope that changes in the future for him. I really do.
I agree. Let's go to something that's brewing here that you have been a part of and experienced. You were a Power 5 quarterback at Georgia Tech, and you started one season there coming out of a hell of a JUCO year. You had to go win the job. The big, coffee, biscuits, scrambled eggs discussion around the state of Mississippi from now until, I guess, Lane Kiffin either tells us or it bleeds into late August or maybe even Labor Day, is who's going to win the quarterback position in Oxford, Mississippi. Can you talk about what it's like having been in a really competitive quarterback battle at Georgia Tech? Tell me what it's like when every rep counts and what it's like being around that other guy, because you're competing your tail off against them. And so, can you really like each other? Can you hang out with each other? Walk us through that, Lukes.
Yeah, that's a really, really good question. And let me kick my dog on the side of the neck right now.
We have another out of bounds fan. Lois Lane loves.
You have another out of bounds.
Out of bounds.
I think she wanted to answer the question. And if she won't be quiet here, I'm not going to be able to answer your question. Anyway, it's interesting because I was in a very, very intense battle. And it's interesting for Jackson Dart because I, too, transferred into a place that had a returning starting quarterback, right? And that had started the previous 11 the year before. And I think, looking back on it, not realizing it at the time, but looking back on it, the thing that can be very, very difficult is winning over the team. Because that person, regardless of how many times they've started, they've been within the locker room. They've been within the framework of the team. They have established relationships, established friendships. And you know what happens oftentimes in that type of situation? People take sides.
Yep.
And that's just human nature, right? So I think that's a component to it if you're the incoming person. But I'll say this, and I did this as a coach because I think it's important because you need to be able to present the opportunity to those in the competition, and you need to make sure that they trust in you as a coach that it is a competition. Well, how do you do that? How do you make sure that every player thinks that they're getting an equal shot, right? Well, one of the ways you do it, and the most verifiable way, is you chart everything they do. And when I mean chart, I'm talking about was it incomplete? Was it complete? Did they make the right progression? Did you make the right check at the line of scrimmage? Did you get the team in the right pass protection? What are you doing on third down? Every little thing that could be charted and documented as an objective factor in the decision needs to be done for everybody that's in the competition, because at the end of the day, you're going to have to make a decision. And what you want to do is go into that room and be able to say, guys, you've competed for 15 days in the spring, you've gone into the summer, now we've charted everything for, like in my case, I didn't come out of the spring as the starter. We were kind of co-number ones. And then I went into the fall and had to battle up until the week leading into our opener. And so you want to go in, able to present to the players, hey, listen, here's what each and every one of you did. So if you're wondering how we came to this decision, all right, this is part of the equation. We've documented everything you've done here. It's been equal across the board. But then I also think there's a component that is a feel. You kind of have you get a sense this guy might have a little something that the other guy doesn't have, and maybe that's a personality quirk. Maybe that is something in the competitive temperament side, in the mental toughness side, and you get a feel for it as a coach. You have to have some instincts for that, and that comes into play in making the decision as well. I listen. I'll say this. I look back on it now, and it made me a better person. It made me a better player. But the guy that I was competing with, who had started the previous 11 games, they roomed us together in fall camp.
Good
so
Lord!
Imagine every single day going back to the same room, in between 2 days at night, and then at the very end when they tell us the decision, the two of us having to go back to the same room.
Okay, so you don't have cell phones then, and you don't have social media. We're visiting with Tom Luginbill with ESPN. You see him on TV and radio and everywhere else. He was in a heated quarterback battle at Georgia Tech, and he was the new guy, as Luginbill said. So we're setting this up because of this whole Jackson Dart, who is the returning starter, Spencer Sanders, and then you have Walker Howard over here too. We've never seen a quarterback room like this, I don't think, in college football. And there's rumors that there's $1.5 million tied up annually in that room until somebody transfers out, which we've never, ever experienced either. So these are all new things that are happening. They happen to be happening at a school that we cover every day. in Ole Miss, 2 hours, 2.5 hours up the road. So, did y'all ever go? Maybe not to blows, but was it contentious? Was it at times you get ticked off at each other? How did that go as roommates, Luke's?
Never between us, but yes, between me and other teammates. I had referenced that, guys will take sides. And that happened to me. That happened against me. That's part of the deal, And because I think a lot of the team felt like, wait a minute, this guy started 11 games. Why did we bring in a junior college guy?
Right.
What are we doing? Why, I don't like this, blah, 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 whatever it may have been. Between myself and him, never. We actually were pretty close and pretty tight and had and later on, how about this? Several years later, I end up coaching against him in the Arena Football League.
Really?
He ends up going on and playing some. Yeah. I mean, it's just you just never know how that thing plays out. But no, everything during the day was highly competitive. You want to win every drill. You want to win every rep. You know that like I said, everything's being charted. You see him take, let's just say, okay, he's going to go 3 and I'm going to go 3. And all of a sudden, 7 on 7, he completes 3 in a row. Okay, well, now I better go complete 3 in a row, right? Or I better go throw a touchdown. And then he may be looking at me, and all of a sudden, I go, 0 for 3 in a team drill or what have you. And he's going to be looking at that going, all right, maybe that's an edge. Maybe that's a way for me to get a leg up. It was constant back and forth. And it's like if you have any type of competitive temperament, or if you have any type of competitive bone in your body, you're always looking what the other guy's doing. You can't help it because you want to beat it. Yeah, you want to beat it. You want to exceed what that person's doing. And for me, to be honest with you, one of the reasons why I ended up winning the job, I also happened to come in with a new offensive coordinator. Okay, so the offense was new. All right, and the offense was the same for all of us. So I didn't have to come in and learn something everybody else was learning. I had to come in and learn, and they had to learn at the same pace and at the same rate. Now, where I might have had a little bit of a leg up at the time was I was a coach's kid, and I'd been around it, and I'd been in locker rooms, and I'd been in meeting rooms, and I'd done a lot of X's and O's stuff at a young age. So this particular offense, there was a lot of new stuff for the guy's name was Donnie Davis, by the way. For Donnie, there was a lot of new stuff, and for me, like, I was a little bit more comfortable and caught on, I think, a little faster to check with needs at the line of scrimmage, identifying fronts, and then checking the play away from maybe the one technique, or checking it to this, or switching the pass protection. We were doing a lot more of that than I think the previous offensive system was doing. And I was a little bit further ahead in that regard, and that probably helped me out when it came to the final decision.
What about when did you know you won it, or did you?
I didn't, man. I felt like I had a good camp. I thought it was going to go either way. I could have understood, and I look back on it now, and I felt this way the night it happened. I could have understood if I wasn't the guy immediately, because I felt like the thing was so close that if I wasn't the guy, it didn't mean I wasn't going to play. Like, the thing went down to the wire. I mean, it really did. It was, I think they brought us in on a Sunday leading in. No, we opened up on Thursday night ESPN. So this would have been like the previous Thursday maybe. And I went in. Your guess was as good as mine. I thought, and I think he felt that way too. I think he felt like, okay, I've probably played good enough to win this thing, but so is Tom. That type of thing.
Okay. Tom Luginbill with ESPN on the Farm Bureau Insurance guest line. So Blake, do you have a question? I was going to go on to something else, but if you've got more here, then let's
I was
keep
just
it
going
here.
to ask on the QB thing. You said to start this about QB battles that, teammates pick sides, and I get that kind of stuff, and the hardest thing to do is win the team over. I think it's easy to neglect over that and say, well, hey, if you start winning games, then you can win the team over. That makes sense. But we have, I don't know, 4 months before the first game, 5 months.
Yeah.
Can you win the team over without winning a game if you're Spencer Sanders or Walker Howard in this situation? Or does Jackson Dart have a way bigger leg up because he's won you games?
That's a great question. And I'll tell you, I didn't win games. It was the first time in my career I did not win as a quarterback. And did that hurt? Absolutely it hurt me, because all it did was create more doubt and more resentment, and had, you hear the phrase winning cures all woes, and it really does.
Sure.
At the end of the day, it really does. And that was a great question, Blake, because I do think, Jackson Dart, there's some proof in the pudding there, right? And the team knows what they have in him. And, listen, are you going to have everybody on your side? No. But the ones that aren't on your side, the only way you're going to get them is if you win. And so I think that where Spencer Sanders comes into play is he's won a lot of football games and he's been unbelievably productive. And if these players who follow college football have been playing college football and they're on the roster, like you said before, but way back then and all that, we didn't have Google, we didn't have the internet.
Yeah.
So all those players, if they didn't know who Spencer Sanders was, they're going to Google him up, say, who's this Spencer Sanders guy? And they're going to go, oh, wow, okay. He's thrown for almost 10,000 yards and, has been very, very productive, so on and so forth. So, but I do think going in, the incumbent does have that benefit with the locker room. I really believe that.
Okay. Yeah. But at the end of the day, when it's all said and done, and you like Jackson Dart, and I thought he played well last year, but at the end of the day, you believe that Spencer Sanders will win this thing, right?
I don't know if I'm convinced of that, but I know what it will do to Jackson Dart. It's going to do one of two things. He's either going to rise to the occasion, or he's going to get caught up in being frustrated because they brought somebody in and he's not going to perform the way they want him to.
Yeah.
I don't think there will be any gray area.
Okay.
And I think the thing that concerns Lane Kiffin the most is that he is risky with the football. But that's kind of part of his makeup, right? He's a riverboat gambler. With some of the spectacular plays you'll see him make, you're going to see him make some boneheaded ones too. And I think that really ticks Lane Kiffin off. And he doesn't want to change his temperament, but he's got to get him to make better decisions. And if he doesn't make better decisions, then he needed to bring somebody in that is going to send a message to Jackson Dart that stuff's not going to be tolerated, And so I think how he responds is going to be the biggest determining factor of whether or not Jackson Dart's the quarterback.
That's true. Somebody's got to leave the nest this summer, though. I think we'll see how it
potentially
plays out.
It won't be Walker Howard.
No, it will not be. He is Tom Luginbill with ESPN on the Farm Bureau Insurance Guest Line. Tom Luginbill, I hope you have a great week, buddy. We'll catch up next week.
Will do. Thank you, pal.
Thanks, man. The Out of Bounds Show. ESPN 105.9 The Zone. Streaming live for you on thezone1059.com. That's powered by Dancing Rabbit Golf Club. Award-winning Dancing Rabbit Golf Club. And the super cool Golden Moon Casino Sportsbook and Lounge. Also, show is presented by the iconic American Lager, Yingling. Can't beat it. Enjoy an ice-cold Yingling and some crawfish at Mudbugs this afternoon. Blake said he's taking me. Superfan Brooks Bryant from Dudy Noble Field at 9:30.